On November 14, 2023, something strange happened at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in California. A signal came in from Voyager 1, a spacecraft launched in 1977, currently drifting over 15 billion miles from Earth, farther than any object ever made by human hands. But something was wrong. The signal was there. The spacecraft was clearly alive, but the data it was sending back was pure gibberish, a meaningless stream of ones and zeros, repeating over and over, like a machine trapped in a nightmare it couldn't wake up from. For 5 months, the most distant human-made object in the universe went silent, and nobody knew why. This is the story of Voyager 1, the loneliest machine ever built. To understand why this matters, you need to understand what Voyager 1 actually is. In 1977, NASA launched 2 identical spacecraft, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, on a mission to explore the outer planets of our solar system: Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. The original mission was supposed to last 5 years. That was almost 50 years ago, and both spacecraft are still going. Voyager 1 flew past Jupiter in 1979, sending back the first detailed images of the planet's swirling storms and volcanic moons. Then it swung past Saturn in 1980, capturing images of the planet's rings that changed everything scientists thought they knew about the solar system. But here is where the story gets extraordinary. After completing its planetary mission, Voyager 1 didn't stop. It kept going, deeper and deeper into space, past the orbits of the outer planets, past the edge of the solar wind, past the boundary where our sun's influence ends and the void of interstellar space begins. In August 2012, Voyager 1 officially crossed that boundary. It became the first human-made object to leave the solar system, the first piece of human technology to enter interstellar space, the cold, dark emptiness between the stars. And it's still out there, right now, moving at 38,000 miles per hour. Every single second, it gets 11 miles farther from Earth. But Voyager 1 is more than a spacecraft. It carries something that makes it one of the most important objects in human history. Attached to the side of each Voyager probe is a golden record, a 12-inch gold-plated phonograph disc containing sounds and images selected to represent life on Earth. It was designed as a message to any intelligent civilization that might one day find it. The record contains greetings in 55 languages, music from Bach, Beethoven, and Chuck Berry, the sound of waves crashing on a shore, a mother's first words to her newborn child, a human heartbeat. It also contains 116 images, photographs of Earth, its people, its animals, its cities, a map showing the location of our solar system relative to 14 pulsars, so that any civilization advanced enough to find the record could trace it back to us. Carl Sagan, the astronomer who led the team that created the golden record, called it a bottle thrown into the cosmic ocean, a message from a small, fragile world hoping that someone, somewhere, might hear it. That message is now over 15 billion miles from home, drifting in the darkness, waiting. Now, back to November 2023. Voyager 1 had been sending steady, reliable data to Earth for decades. Then, without warning, the data stream turned into nonsense. The spacecraft's flight data subsystem, one of its 3 onboard computers, responsible for packaging all scientific and engineering data before transmission, got stuck in a loop. It kept sending the same meaningless pattern of code over and over again. The spacecraft was alive. It could receive commands from Earth, but it couldn't tell anyone what was happening to it. And here is what made the problem terrifying. Voyager 1 is so far from Earth that a radio signal traveling at the speed of light takes 22.5 hours to reach it, and another 22.5 hours for a response. That means every single attempt to fix the problem took 2 full days, just for one exchange of information. You can't reboot it. You can't physically touch it. You can't send a technician. The spacecraft is farther from any human being than anything has ever been. And it was built in the 1960s and 70s, using technology older than most people alive today. NASA engineers had to dig through decades-old paper documents, instruction manuals written by people who never imagined Voyager would still be working in 2023, let alone that it would be floating between the stars. Some of those original engineers are no longer alive. For months, NASA tried everything. They sent commands to restart the computer. They ran diagnostic tests across a 45-hour round trip. Nothing worked. Then, on March 1st, 2024, they tried something desperate. They sent a command called a poke, essentially telling the flight data system to try running different software sequences, one at a time, hoping to isolate the problem. 2 days later, on March 3rd, a signal came back. It was different from the gibberish. It still wasn't normal. But for the first time in 4 months, an engineer at NASA's Deep Space Network was able to decode part of the message. What they found was both simple and heartbreaking. About 3% of the flight data system's memory had been corrupted. A single chip, one tiny piece of hardware, smaller than your thumbnail, had failed. After nearly 50 years of traveling through the most extreme environment imaginable, bombarded by cosmic radiation, operating in temperatures near absolute zero, one small chip finally gave out. And that one chip had brought the most distant machine in human history to its knees. But NASA's engineers refused to give up. They couldn't replace the chip. It was 15 billion miles away. So they did something remarkable. They rewrote the spacecraft software remotely to work around the damaged chip. They split the corrupted code into smaller sections and stored them in different parts of the computer's memory, avoiding the broken chip entirely. On April 18, 2024, they beamed the patch into space. Then they waited. 22.5 hours for the signal to reach Voyager. 22.5 hours for the response. On April 20th, the signal came back. Clean. Readable. Voyager 1 was talking again. Bill Kurth, a scientist who had been part of the Voyager team since 1974, said it best. The Voyager team at JPL has performed a miracle in recovering this magnificent explorer. After 5 months of silence, the loneliest machine in the universe was back online. But here is the part that nobody talks about. Voyager 1 is dying. Its power source, a radioisotope thermoelectric generator fueled by decaying plutonium-238, loses about 4 watts of power every year. NASA has already shut down heaters, backup systems, and non-essential instruments to conserve energy. Scientists estimate that by 2025 or 2026, they will have to start shutting down the science instruments themselves. By the early 2030s, Voyager 1 will no longer have enough power to send any data back to Earth. It will go dark, permanently. But it won't stop. Voyager 1 will continue drifting through interstellar space for millions of years, long after our civilization is gone, long after the sun has burned out, long after the Earth itself has ceased to exist. In about 40,000 years, it will pass within 1.6 light-years of a star called Gliese 445 in the constellation Camelopardalis. It won't stop there either. It will just keep going, forever. And strapped to its side, the golden record will still be there. The music, the greetings, the sound of a mother's voice, the heartbeat, a message from a species that once looked up at the stars and dared to send a piece of itself into the unknown. Voyager 1 is not just a spacecraft. It is the farthest thing from home that we have ever created. It is proof that a small, curious species on a small blue planet can build something that outlasts everything, even itself. And somewhere out there, right now, 15 billion miles away, it is still moving, still drifting, still carrying our voice into the dark. The question is, will anyone ever hear it? This has been The Odd Vault. If this unlocks something in your mind, subscribe, because we open a new vault every week. What they didn't tell you, we will.